Well, everybody does want an opportunity. Everybody's looking, to get an opportunity to explore something. But you cannot do as much as even recognize an opportunity if you're not prepared for it. So yeah, you have to be ready for your opportunity by preparing for when it comes. It's a conversation on Your West Television Network, and of course, on the conversation, as always, I will be informing you as well as dissecting topical issues that Nigeria is confronted with today. My name is Adesuwa Osuyi, and moving straight into stories and happenings from across Africa, starting with the story where the World Health Organization on Wednesday called for the immediate development of a vaccine against a bacterial infection responsible for nearly 150,000 stillbirths and infant deaths annually. Moving away from that to Ethiopia, since a report was issued last month about the sexual exploitation and abuse by aid workers during an Ebola crisis in the Democratic Republic of Congo, more women have reported workers involved in the scandal, a senior World Health Organization official disclosed. And the last story I'll be looking at today is on Sudan. Sudanese ousted Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok wants political detainees released and constitutional institutions be restored before engaging in any dialogue, said his office on Wednesday. And that's it for development across Africa. But before I proceed to the next segment, you do know that I'll be bringing you COVID-19 updates from across Africa right now. And as I always say, COVID is real, it's still raging, it's still as deadly as it has always been. So do your part to ensure that you and the next person is safe. So COVID-19 update from across Africa. And after that, we'll be moving straight into the big story. It's still the conversation here on Your West Television Network, and it's time we bring you the crux of the discussion today, and that is the big story. And today on the big story, the focus is on insecurity and its matters arising from the Abuja Varsity attack. And I would not be, talking about this issue by myself. I have a studio guest with me. Is a spokesperson for Transparency and Accountability Group. He's Mr. Ayodeji Ologun. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. So moving straight into it. So we know the attack that happened in the University of Abuja where, 7 persons were abducted. And I think just last night another attack was meted out on the senior staff of the university right in his office. What's your take on that one?
There's one thing that is clear, and this is a time at which, as a Nigerian, I begin to get frightened about the mayor of insecurity. A lot of us believe that it's going to be a northeast thing. A lot of us feel, oh, it's not going to get to me, oh, it's far away from me. But I think it's becoming clear that at a time like this, nobody in this country is safe. The attack on the Abuja University has brought 2 things to fore. Number one would have thought there's a sacred regard for an institution of learning. That's been the tradition. People believe that there are things that could happen in the open society that would hardly not happen in an academic environment. Yeah. But that an attack could happen in not just the federal capital, but the fact that it's happening in a citadel of learning is a call to everyone to wake up and realize that nobody is safe. That's number one. Number two, it's also a pointer to the fact that we are practically surrounded as a people. One would have thought that as safe or as protected as the capital city Abuja is, such an attack would not have happened without it being nipped in the bud within a few minutes. The story has it that those that were kidnapped at the University of Abuja were not transported by motorcycle or by vehicle, whatever. They trekked into the bush, which means before that time, those guys who carried out the attack must have surrounded the university. Number two is the fact that between the time that they were abducted and walked on foot a number of days, because you will recall that one of them that was abducted escaped, a young man who came back to tell the story and is the one that brought to the father. They actually trekked. So if they had trekked a number of kilometers from where they were kidnapped into the bush around the University of Abuja, what happened to satellite captures? What happens to the effort of the security men? as at that time, who could have trailed them or combed the bush and bring out the victims. Some of them are still in captivity as we speak. So this has pointed to the fact that as a people, we are becoming more unsafe than it used to be. And this is a time where we don't leave our security to just the security forces. Everyone needs to be alert. We should not be under the illusion that because we live in eyebrow areas, nothing will happen. It's coming too close to everyone.
I was saying that it's amazing that you mentioned that we cannot leave security to just the security forces.
Of course.
And I would, in your opinion, I would like to know what alternative do you think the regular citizens have at this point? Because I know people have come out to say, we don't trust the security forces anymore. They don't even respond to distress calls. They're not proactive and all of that. What, in your opinion, would you say the alternative is for us at this point?
I think the alternative is not losing trust or losing faith in the security forces. Because as of today, we don't have an alternative. There is no alternative to the Nigerian police force. There's no alternative to the Nigerian army. Of course, no states of the federation controls any of the arms of the security network. We are in a situation whereby we don't have a choice than to believe and to put our trust in the security forces. But then when I said that we don't leave it in their hand, it's because the security forces are no angels. They are no gods. They don't sit in one corner and know virtually what happens. Of all their equipment to know what happens in a place or two, surveillance cameras and all that. But as the people, it is time that we begin to organize ourselves in whatever society or whatever environment we find ourselves to begin to find informations around us. Security forces do not just work on guesses. They work on information available. I'm sure that before that attack, there might have been the likelihood of some strange faces walking around that environment. They won't just sweep in on the community and abduct people. There must have been informants who must have pretended as students or pretended as children of staffs in the quarters, walking around to see how can they walk into the quarters. If they kidnap, where will they go through? It's not just a one-day thing. So if as a people we become more responsive to security, especially in provision of information, we need to be more careful, we need to be more alert, so that when you look around you and you find a strange face, there's nothing stopping you from challenging such person. Who are you looking for? What are you doing here? And of course, if such person is not able to give or provide adequate information or convincing information, such a person becomes a suspect who can be handed over to the police or to the security network within the environment. I'm sure this is what I mean when I say that we don't just leave it in the hand of security forces, because as of today, they are only the ones saddled with this. Well, of course, individuals who have the wherewithal can decide to employ private security guards, and whoever can afford that in the present day Nigeria must be a big person. Yeah. So if our fate still lies in the hand of the Nigerian police force, the Nigerian army, the Nigerian air force, as the case may be, what we need to do as citizens is to make sure that we organize ourselves in such a way that we can make information available. There's no reason why a university environment like that should not have its own local security network, who necessarily might not have the power to combat, but of course can sweep around, can snooze around and get information, identify people who do not belong to that community and are being seen around maybe on a daily basis or at a particular odd time. So this is why we need to, this is what I mean by we don't leave it into their hands. We need to organize ourselves as a people and begin to do all that is possible to make information available to those who are saddled with the responsibility of protecting us.
Okay, let's move away from the security forces now. What responsibility do you think lies on the hands of the university authorities? Because I do know this is not the first university in Nigeria that has been attacked by bandits and gunmen kidnapping people. It has happened in Kaduna State, it happened in other states of the country. But it felt as though if it happened there, one would think that this university authority will begin to put measures in place to avert stuff like this. But we see it happening in the University of Abuja, for instance. What responsibility do you think lies in the hand of the school authorities, even?
As much as a lot of people would have held the management of the University of Abuja responsible, I would not. And this is simple. As the duty of university management is to provide all that is needed to make life comfortable and life meaningful for not just the student but the staffs, to have an holistic, conducive environment for learning. But then, when you talk about security, the best that any higher institution can do is to recruit security agents within the school system, where you have an head of security unit who recruits, or you contract it out to a security outfit who helps you to recruit young men and women. And these are people that are not licensed to carry arms. You see them at the gate of universities, in hostels, in departments, in their uniform. What they are supposed to do, what they are capable of doing is just to hold people civil, to make people commit to civil responsibility. Don't do this, don't walk on the lawn, you should not be seen outside of your hostel by 11. That's the limit of their involvement. So when it comes to territorial protection, it is the duty of the Nigerian state, through its Nigerian police force, through the Nigerian army, and of course every other security agency, to make sure that the territorial space, not just of the university but of different states and of course the country, is protected. You cannot expect a security agent or a security officer of a university who is in his blue and black or black and green, as the case may be, who cannot do beyond holding the baton to go and confront a bandit who is coming with AK-47. Of course, that's putting the life of such people at risk. So this responsibility, or the failure of what we experience in the University of Abuja, is a failure of the state. And this is a time whereby we need to begin to hold our leaders more responsible. It is the first duty of any elected government, as provided by the Constitution, is the protection of the people. Making sure that your citizens' life is guaranteed. And the only way their life can be guaranteed is when they are safe and secured. And the only people certified with the responsibility of keeping people safe, of course, is the people we know, the Nigerian army, the Nigerian police. Even in a sane society, you don't bring the army into the civil space. They're supposed to be on the boundaries of the country. So the responsibility ordinarily should be that of the Nigerian police force, which you and I know are understaffed, which you and I know do not have proper training, which you and I know are not given the moral support as needed. They are not being properly taken care of. These are police officers who buy uniforms by themselves, who services gun that is given to them by the state by themselves, who are responsible for their families, and they don't get to collect salary in 3-4 months. So these are issues surrounding the security network, and we need to begin to hold the state responsible.
All right, thank you so much for your time this morning. We're actually out of time, but thank you for joining me on the conversation. I do hope that we can continue this conversation some other time.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to my viewers for joining me on the conversation this morning. Do not forget that the conversation comes to you every weekday. That's Mondays to Friday, and that means I'm going to be back here tomorrow. But before then, follow TOS TV Network across all social media platforms. That's TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course subscribe to the channel on YouTube so you do not miss out on amazing programs. You can also watch the conversation and other shows on www.tostvnetwork.com. My name is Adeso Alsuyi, and as I always say, please remember to always stay safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.